We have an intimate but growing crowd joining us this morning. Welcome to the first community hour of the semester, the spring semester. And as you just heard, we are recording today's program. So that's a reminder. And I also want to remind you that if closed captioning is something you need, the link just popped up in the chat box. So please join us in that format if you'd like. So, great to see everybody. Let me start off by saying Gung Hei Fat Choi. Happy New Year. Yesterday was the first day of the Lunar New Year. And we are, I always say to myself after the calendar New Year that I give myself till February 1st to say Happy New Year, right? But then we move right into the Lunar New Year. So we get to say Happy New Year for a couple more weeks, which is always great. We are in the year of the tiger. And the last time we were in the year of the tiger was 2010. And in Chinese culture, the tiger is a symbol of bravery, wisdom, and strength. And the tiger can also be viewed as an uplifting animal that can give people hope. And so I know there's probably some true tigers that are with us, but I want to grant you all honorary tiger status for the year, because I think we can all use all of those things that are represented by the tigers. Now, I was interested to read that in Asian cultures, it's the tiger, not the lion, that is the king of the jungle. So I need you to all be fierce, go out and be fierce, but be compassionate in the things that we want to do on behalf of our students. So happy New Year, Gung Hei Fat Choi. I also want to acknowledge yesterday was the first day of Black History Month. And this is the opportunity we have each year to recognize and celebrate the contributions of Black and African Americans throughout history for the many things that they've done to help us in all aspects of our culture and otherwise. I did not realize that it wasn't until 1976, so for those of you that weren't born yet, that was our bicentennial, right? I think I was 12 years old or something. And it was President Gerald Ford who actually officially recognized Black History Month. President Ford, of course, was the only president in the United States that was not elected, right? Just a little bit of tidbit history there. But we've been honoring our Black and African American brothers and sisters for years. As early as 1926, there was something called Negro History Week, which was celebrated each year. And that was led by an individual by the name of Carter Woodson, who, from my sources, tells me was one of the fathers of Black history. I also thought it was interesting that February is chosen primarily because the second week of the month coincides with the birthdays of both Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. Of course, Lincoln was influential in the emancipation of slaves, and Douglass, who himself was a former slave, was a prominent leader throughout the abolitionist movement. I also didn't realize that each year there's a different theme for Black History Month. And this year's theme is Black wellness, health and wellness, paying homage to the medical scholars and healthcare providers that have helped throughout the pandemic. So we get to honor both Lunar New Year and Black History Month. As I mentioned, this is the first community hour of the semester. And for those of us who may be newer to our community, I thought I'd give you a little background here. After a number of years of planning, our community hour became official in the fall of 2018. And we really started to get our stride with community hour just right as the pandemic hit. And certainly while community hour has taken on a different format, obviously it's been virtually, I truly believe it's been one of those things that's enabled us to keep connected throughout this last couple of years. So community hours has served us well. And it's a period on Mondays and Wednesdays from 12:40 to 1:30 p.m. where we come together as a community. There are no classes scheduled during that time, creating opportunities for us to build community, cultural enrichment, professional development, programming, et cetera. I was reminded today, Vice President Nelson reminded me that there was a period of time where we had a barbecue once a semester during community hour, and that would involve both course employees as well as students. So we look forward to getting back to that. But community hours also enabled us to take on some tough issues. We've addressed violence on campus, similar to the tragic shootings yesterday at Bridgewater College in Virginia and at the South Education Center in Richfield, Minnesota. And certainly our hearts and prayers and all of our good feelings go out to those individuals in those communities who were impacted by those tragic events. And also community hour has enabled us to address becoming anti-racist and our attempts to dismantle white supremacy. And both of which I believe were core of yesterday's bomb threats at over 12 historically black colleges and universities. So community hour is a rich opportunity for us to come together and create community first and foremost, but also to really take on some tough issues. And clearly with both of those, violence on campus and dismantling white supremacy and becoming anti-racist continue to be important aspects of things we need to keep at the forefront of the work that we do. So with that, I have a brief COVID update, really a truly brief COVID update, and I want to announce to you today that we are in fact proceeding as planned with coming back with in-person instruction as of February 5th, which is Saturday for Saturday classes, and as of February 7th for all other classes. So I appreciate everybody's patience over this period of time, this couple-week period of time where we paused to ensure that we are creating the most safest environment we can for all of you, of course, as well as all of our students. But our plan is to proceed on Saturday and Monday to come back together in person. So toward that end, I will be sending out a communication, it could be as early as this afternoon, maybe tomorrow morning before we get it tightened up, with some details following up from some of the information we shared during convocation, including there was a lot of questions about the testing that we'll be providing and some more questions about how to get your masks and all those kinds of things. So that will be forthcoming, again, either this afternoon or tomorrow morning at the latest. But it's okay to get the word out, folks, that we are moving forward as planned. And I can't tell you how much I wait and look forward to seeing you all on campus. It started beginning on Monday. I want to ask Nicole Cruz at this particular time, our Director of Communications and Marketing Communications, to share with us some updates on our Calm Strong website. I've got to tell you, folks, everything that we've put out in the last couple of years is on this wonderful website, right? All of the resources, there's archives of all the communications that we've had. And so, but as everything has been moving and changing along the way, we have made some changes to the website. So Nicole, I want to ask you to just give us some highlights of where we can find all that good information.
Sure. Thanks so much, Dr. Kuhn. And I'll be brief as well. I just wanted to call your attention to the homepage changes and how you can get to some of the pages you might have been familiar with. So here at the blue ribbon is where you're going to be able to access the Calm Strong pages. And this site has tons of information about prevention and self-care, cleaning and disinfecting, the COVID-19 training that employees are required to take, and other trainings, and health and safety measures. So that's one spot that you'll find information that's constantly updated. Now, we had hoped to sort of put the updates and resources page behind us, as we thought we were moving out of the pandemic, and then Omicron hit. So our updates and resources page is now linked from the right side of the homepage, the response to COVID-19. And this is where you will find information about the current health orders that are in effect, site-specific protection plans, our positive cases, the date that they occurred, and then the resource guides. We are still in the process of updating those and getting those ready for next week, support services as well. And then farther down the page, you can also filter the communication by audience. So if you're looking for information that only went to faculty or only went to students, you can filter it out here. And then if I go back to the home page, you'll notice that this is the link to submit proof of vaccination. Employees, when you complete your daily symptoms screening, you can use the link here. Students no longer have to complete the daily symptom screening. They attest to that when they register for classes. And COVID-19 exposure and reporting scenarios. So this takes you to a few of the most common scenarios. So if you have questions about, what do I do if I tested positive and had symptoms, or I tested positive and I don't? When can I come back to campus? Here is where it's broken down by different scenarios. And that's it for the moment.
Terrific. Thank you, Nicole. I think I shared early on that so in the beginning of the pandemic, our website presence and our Calm Strong website was a model for the other 116 community colleges. And I'm really pleased to say that it's continued to be a model for the other colleges throughout the last 2 years. So I really want to thank Nicole, Shook, and everybody else that's had any involvement which a lot of people have in getting the information up there. But all the information is there, folks. I really encourage you to check it out. And I'm really proud of the work that this team has done on this throughout the period of time. So I thank you for that very much. So I'm going to call upon everyone in our role as college ambassadors, right? I've always said that, you know, despite what our specific role is, we're all ambassadors to the college. And in this next couple of weeks, more than ever, that is imperative, right? We have students that are brand new to us that have been with us for a couple of weeks, never been on campus. We have students that have been with us 18 months that have never been on campus, right? And so we are going to have, beginning Saturday, excuse me, again, for Saturday class, we're going to have people on campus that have never been on campus before. And I can always I can look out my window here and I can say, that student's got a question, they're looking for directions, right? We can anticipate that. We've all been doing this long enough, you can read it, right? I need us all to be out there, right? It can't be just Terry at the front desk in the administrative center taking on all the questions. We've all got to be out there looking for students that have questions. There may be some new faculty that have questions as well, right? It's all about looking out for each other. But I really want our students, when they step back onto this campus, to know that we care, and I know you all care, there's no question about that. We want to make sure that they can find their way to where they need to get their questions answered. So remember this, you know, for those of us been around, there's this ask me, I can help. Well, I'm hoping we got a lot of these to go around because I know a lot of you can help. We can all help, and I'm calling upon you to help, okay? And so between classes, if you're teaching or if you've got some time away that you can go, wander around campus and look for those folks that have questions, because this is truly important to us that we want to make sure that folks feel welcome and they want to feel welcome back. So the question has become, where can I get those pens? So I'm going to call upon the powers that be can put that in the message for me. It looks like Gina Longo in Enrollment Services has them. Okay, good. Thank you, Vice President. I'll just appreciate that. So towards that end, I know there's still some trepidation about coming back for some folks, right? Some of us have been back, although we've been isolated and watching the dog walkers and the strollers and everybody else has been going by for the last couple of years. But I know there's some trepidation coming back. But I just want to say, folks, we've got this. We've prepared for this. Have we anticipated absolutely everything that could happen? Well, we certainly tried. But is there probably something we didn't? Absolutely. But you know what? We're going to work through it. We're going to work through it just as we have worked through things over the past couple of years. So I say that we've got this. And I want to steal from a line from my brother, Patrick Kelly. I know that he sent a message out to the faculty saying, I've got your back. Well, I want you to know I've got your back too, right? And I know you've got my back. And so we need to have each other's back throughout this process because there may be some bumps along the way, right? And that's just the way it all works. But, you know, I want to challenge us as we have those bumps to ensure that we have the grace and patience to work through those issues, right? Because we all respect each other. We all do different things. At the end of this day, we're all a part of this family, this community, the college we're in. So let's have each other's backs, folks. And we're going to get through this and we're going to be as strong as ever on the other side of this. So before we go to some of the questions, I'm going to do some shameless plugs for a variety of different things that I've been asked to plug. I won't sell any Hoovers or anything else like that. But I want to tell you about some exciting things coming up just to draw your attention to. First of all, I'm aware that the MAPS program will be hosting an orientation for students from 8:30 to 2:30 this coming Friday in PV2. And that's just out here. And I look forward to the MAPS are really a vibrant group of students, student leaders actually. And so I'm glad that they'll be on campus. Look forward to that. Welcome Week kicks off on Monday, February 7th with a DJ during community hour, followed by programs on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And more information for under Welcome Week on the website is there. This is very exciting news. The Cobb cupboard food distribution is back starting the week of February 7th as well. Food is available through the health center as it has been in the past. And the fresh food distribution, let's try that 3 times, will be every Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 1:30 starting February 9th. It will be located under the AC 255 overhang. Well, that's a new location. That's just out here. That's just great. It used to be under the LRC, and of course that can't happen anymore for obvious reasons. And finally, coming from our dear friend Sadiqa, ASCOM will host Club Fest on February 16th. February 15th and 16th in the AC Quad. Posters to be around campus. So look out for that. That's exciting news coming up. I noted that we have 2 programs that are coming up through both Sciences and Umoja. and that is on Saturday, February 12th, 9 a.m. to 1 at the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Academy. We have a telescope program. Community journey sailing through the universe with the James Webb Space Telescope. Sounds very exciting. And then the other opportunity is on Saturday, February 26th at the Bill and Adele Jonas Center, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. That's a fundraiser. During this evening event, the audience will learn from NASA experts and local scientists about the importance of the James Webb Space Telescope. Lots of opportunities to get students involved, so I draw your attention to that. Well, you'll see more on this online, but I just wanted to draw your attention to some things. This one looks exciting to me. Classified Senate, their program, the Alex Ramon Virtually Impossible Magic Show. It's actually a magic show virtually, and that seems to be a very interesting program. Thanks to the Classified Senate for doing that. Encourage you to take a look out for that. And finally, in the way of shameless plugs, I will plug the fact that we have a common read program. For those of you that don't know, every couple of years we adopt a book. And I see Dave has already put it in there, but let me go ahead and read the information that Dave has provided me. As a great way to celebrate being back together in person as one giant community gathered around literature. Isabel Allende, who has sold more books than any other Latinx author in the world, 77 million and counting, which is amazing. It's coming to the College Room on Thursday, May 12th at 6:30 p.m. The entire college, students, faculty, staff, and community members are invited to pick up a free copy of the novel. Free copy, folks. Get your free copy of the novel. A Long Petal of the Sea is the title, and her short stories, the stories of Eva Luna at either the IVC or Kentfield Library. As we fight for the future of democracy, Allande's book gives us hope, and it celebrates immigrants, women, poetry, love, and Spanish language. How can you beat that? Join us for that program as well. So with that, I'm going to go to some questions that were prepared ahead of time, and I may call upon a number of people, perhaps either Vice President Nelson Eldridge and Executive Director Harris for some of these questions. I'm not going to address questions, honestly, folks, that we've answered 2 or 3 times. I figured, great Comstrong website, go check it out and get the information there. I have got an interesting question about, what's happening in the UK and other countries. And the other country that I couldn't remember this morning in meeting with Denmark, it basically lifted all precautions, right? They're saying, okay, go on, live your life. Don't worry about wearing masks. Don't worry about social distancing. Don't worry, just go, I guess, go be happy or whatever it is. And the question was, do we plan to do something here like that? Well, I don't certainly want to be the first college to do that. So no, probably not anytime soon. But I would imagine that as things progress, that our country will begin to lessen precautions and steps as well. But I don't see that happening anytime soon. I'm first and foremost most concerned about getting you all back here next week safely and finishing the semester. And we can talk about what the future looks like beyond that. There's some questions that have been answered regarding that. Vice President Eldridge, there's a question here about makeup testing for students who are both day and night students at Kentfield campus. I know testing has come up a number of times. Will there be testing? If so, what are the days and times for makeup testing?
Well, I know that Dr. Stormy Miller, our Director for Student Accessibility Services, where our testing is located, has been working on that. And part of that has been getting a physical site put back together and ready to go. And that's been happening over the break. So what I would suggest is we wait. I don't want to say anything that isn't perfectly accurate. So we'll get that information out to folks. In terms of the protocols. Obviously, the first attempt should be that the faculty member should try to work something out, whether it be during an office hour or otherwise, if they're able with the student, or have other arrangements. If that absolutely can't happen, then we'll work to assist as we're able. The exact hours or other things, how it's going to be handled, is it by appointment? All of that we'll get out to folks in writing so that it's clear and consistent. And we'll try to do that within the next few days.
Terrific, thank you very much. This next question has nothing to do with COVID, which I love. It says, as we see inflation and the general cost of living rising, will we see salaries rise at the college we're in? Well, I shared this morning that many of you may know that the dollar store is my favorite store, right? And so recently the dollar store went from $1 to $1.25, which just broke my heart, right? I'm feeling it to my core, right? The dollar store is now $1.25. Anyway, I'm just joking about that. I'm not joking about the fact that it went to 125. I'm joking about the fact that, hey, you got it. But all I would say was this, is that we have collective bargaining environment. We have 3 collective bargaining agreements with our classified staff. We have 2 with CSEA and SEIU. Those contracts end on the end of this year, on December 31st, 2022. And with UPM, we go out to June 30th, 2024. And as we do every year, when it comes time to negotiate new contracts, we will negotiate in good faith with open hearts and open minds, and we'll go from there. So beyond that, I'd say shop at the Dollar Tree. That's where I shop. Okay. There's a couple questions for Vice President Nelson. The one has to do with the cafeteria or food truck options. When will cafeteria food truck options open back up?
The cafeteria will be open on the 7th. I just got everything confirmed today. They will be there staffed up and ready to serve just like they did before. They'll do more grab and go options this time. They will limit their hours a little bit just due to staffing shortages that they're trying to find extra staff. We will know that more by Thursday of this week, but they will primarily be open 10 to 2:30. They'll probably not serve breakfast early in the morning like they had in the past, but we'll get that nailed down here in the next couple of days. But we will be open for cafeteria services starting Monday.
Terrific, thank you. I have another question for you, Greg. It says, I noticed the box of surgical masks in my area indicates a May 2022 expiration date. Is each area responsible for monitoring the dates of expiry? Is that a word, expiry? I'll let you answer that. Or is this being monitored another way?
So we have put a call into FEMA regarding because that's where the mask came from, regarding the paper mask and N95s. The initial emails, we'll get a formal confirmation tomorrow. It will get us through spring semester because they technically expire in May. But right now, the masks that we did have some masks that expired earlier, but they have been extended because they've never been opened and the paper is still good, et cetera. So as long as they haven't been exposed, they're extending some of those for 6 months, but I'm waiting for formal confirmation. But the ones we do have are good through the end of spring semester, so we should be fine, which is what we're trying to get through right now to start with.
Terrific. Yeah, it would seem interesting to me that paper would expire, but stranger things have happened, right? Thank you for that update. We look forward to more on that. And again, in the message we're going to send out again either this afternoon or tomorrow will be how you go about obtaining your masks, both your surgical masks and your N95 options. So thank you on that. Okay, let me just see here before we open up to questions that might have appeared in the chat box. It says, please provide details about COVID testing. That's forthcoming. Also information about how to get PPE. That's forthcoming as well. It says, David, can you please clarify on the N95, KN95 mask requirement in the COVID update? Yes, basically what we're saying is, as we said before, is the minimum is a surgical mask and preferable would be the K95 or the KN95. Again, that will be articulated. So with that, we will open up, while you're thinking about what your questions might be, I'll give you a little bit of an enrollment update. So as of today, I have to take, I think our worst point, we've slipped about 8.6% in our enrollment, which again, not good. And certainly the most vulnerable students were probably in that population. But comparable to other colleges, we did pretty well. So as you know, we're paying the students fees this semester. And in part, that was to help as many people as possible to get back onto their educational journeys. So I'm pleased to say that we have closed the gap to being just about 2.5% behind where we were this time last year. So I think our efforts have worked. Would I've liked to have seen those numbers in the positive? Absolutely. But just this week, one of our sister schools, not too far away in wine country, guess you can pick which one you want, but it was reporting over 13.5% being down this semester. So I think we've done pretty well, and I think our strategy to offer to pay students fees was a good one. Again, to get people back in and to help them to ensure that we're back on their journeys. So Jesse, you want to read me the questions that come in, and I may toss them to Greg. Can you spotlight Vice President Eldridge as well? And maybe go ahead and spotlight Nikki Harris.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's see. What do we do if we can see and can tell a coworker has all the COVID symptoms, but they continue to come to work? How do we handle our concern?
Nikki, are you on? That's a Dakota Harris question.
It is. If you believe someone is sick or not feeling well, they should contact their supervisor. So the person who is, are we asking about another employee that is implied they may be sick? And any concerns someone have should be having that dialogue with their supervisor if they believe someone else may be sick and coming to work.
Thank you. Next question.
This one is, I think, clarification in terms of paper or the mask expiring. It is the rubber bands that expire, not the paper. They become stiff and can break. Comment from one of our faculty. How can I get a box of N95s for my classroom?
Is that a good use of duct tape? Just thinking. All right. Anyway, so go ahead.
I think
Try to
you
keep it light, folks. Try and keep it light. You know. Okay. Go ahead.
I think this one will be addressed in your communications about how to get a box of N95 masks for their classroom.
Yeah, so I answer that just real quick. I answer that in chat. Surgical masks are being supplied by the custodial staff for all classrooms, and they're being replenished by the custodial staff as they deplete. We're going through the surgical masks first because we have a greater quantity of surgical masks than we do N95 masks. So we're going through those first before we start deploying the N95 mask in the classrooms.
Thank you. So getting lots of questions about masks and so forth, and I just say, stay tuned, folks, for the written communication that will come out on that. Anything not related to masks, Jesse?
Yes. Are all the physical maps located around the campus being updated? I've seen one that was updated and several others that still show the LRC.
Really great question, Greg.
Yeah, so the maps have been, if you look around campus, you'll see they're white. They're newer, the newer maps. And but most of the maps have been replaced. I think we still have a few sprinkled around that we got to fix. But new maps have been included for the campuses, for all the wayfinding maps that you see on campus, and the maps that are online are updated as well.
Great, thank you. And thanks to your team for doing that. Other questions, Jesse?
What is the protocol if we see that students are coming to class ill, COVID exposure?
Jonathan.
Yeah. So this is why in the frequently asked questions document and the communications that gone out to faculty, we asked that everyone put that red text in their syllabus because that red text basically says you have to wear a mask, don't come if you're sick, etc. That's big. The syllabus is in effect a contract with the student, which means that we can take action then if the student doesn't comply with that language, as long as that's been made available to them. I don't think it will happen often, but it may happen. The first thing that should happen is that the faculty members should say, you don't seem like you're feeling well. I would encourage you to go home. We can talk during my office hour at some other point about what you can do to make up the missed content. And toward that end, I just sent out a few minutes ago a message to faculty outlining a series of strategies that may or may not work in all situations, but things that might be helpful in terms of thinking about attendance policies, thinking about how to minimize the amount of work it takes to help students keep up on their work if they're out, etc. Now, I would say this, that if you do have a student who shows up, they're clearly ill, if there's any sort of issue with that, you should also put in a CommCares report, because that will then trigger our ability to follow up with the student, remind them of the requirements, and if necessary, which I doubt will happen, but it is possible, we could suspend the student and make it so that they can't come back for failure to comply with the college policies.
Terrific, thank you. Jesse, other questions?
This one, I guess it's more of a wish list. Can we have the new N95 masks and not the old ones that look cups?
Like a cup? I think, yeah. I will say, I understand, yeah. That one you got to like pull over your head this way and yeah, it's as opposed to this one, which just goes around your ears, right? So it's, yeah. Yeah. What are we getting, Greg? Which ones are we getting?
Whatever we deliver, because it's free.
Okay. There you go. So we'll work through it one way or the other, right? That's good. Okay. Other questions, Jesse?
Are the buildings chillier or colder than usual? On this Zoom, I'm seeing some staff, people who look pretty bundled up.
Greg?
I don't think so. Of course, everybody's got their own personal thermostat, right? So it just depends on where people are and what buildings they're in, and if the doors are open, windows. I mean, there's all kinds of factors that fall into that. But I don't know of any mechanical issues that are causing building problems.
Greg, remind me, is it not true that the more people you have in a building, that based on the number of people in the building, the temperature actually adjusts, right? Because of the body temperatures, right? So you're
So just to add, is winter.
I like Yvonne's comment. I guess someone paid attention to Puxatawny Phil today, because yeah, 6 more weeks of winter.
There you go. There you go. Okay, other questions?
Yeah, what is the mask policy outdoors on campus? A student asked me about that this morning. Her instructor said students need to wear masks when their class meets outdoors.
Greg, you want to take that one? Or John, I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, I mean, our policy basically says that you have to be masked indoors, right, with a surgical mask at a minimum. Outdoors, I believe our policy still says that you should wear a mask. And actually, Nicole just put it in here, right? In public indoor spaces and outdoors when distancing is not possible, right? And so it may be that the instructor says, well, we're all going to be within 6 feet of each other outdoors, and we're going to do that. I would say that ultimately, the faculty member, if they're going to have class outdoors, can say that that's what they want to have happen in making sure that the class is operating fine. And that may vary then, and then when the students disperse from class, they could take their mask off if they're able to distance from folks outdoors or are eating or drinking. So I think that, ultimately that's going to be up to the faculty who are teaching outdoors to determine whether or not there's enough distance and they want to require that. But you can read in the chat the way the policy actually reads.
Great, thank you. Okay, other questions?
Will the makeup testing center be open this semester?
I think we had that question earlier, and Stormy put in the chat that by the end of the week, we will have a detailed message out on that.
More to come. Great. Anything else there, Jess?
Yeah, a Pomo Building 4, this is an IVC, HVAC does not work. Are repairs coming this summer?
Yeah, I just answered that in the chat. So I've already authorized the work for that to happen.
Terrific, thank you. Other last questions?
Let me see here. How will the mask policy intersect with the cafeteria opening and student services?
So there is, obviously you can't wear a mask while you're eating, at least I hope not. And so we masking, you don't have to wear a mask while you're eating. So we also ordered and have more picnic tables coming for outside the student services building for folks to be able to eat outside since the weather's pretty. So we already have some outside, but we ordered about 8 more for the front of the student services building where for those of you who know the area, the concrete's like really bright white in front of the building. So we're going to be adding 8 more picnic tables there so people can be outside. But there will be no masking inside the cafeteria itself. That's why we're doing a lot more grab and go options from the cafeteria. So and less grill orders, if you will, or to sit down. So we're hoping that will help. But at the same time, there is no distancing requirements when it comes to eating and so forth, just like you see in restaurants and sitting across from your spouse or partner or whatever. So
Terrific, thank you. Jess?
Yeah, I think this is the last one here, or maybe 2 more. If a student tests positive, they were in my class the day before, does the whole class quarantine?
Well, Nikki can weigh on this a second. I did notice there was the one about in the classroom, we still distance 6 feet. Is that correct? The answer is no. If you have enough room in the classroom to encourage students to sit apart from each other, great, you can make that happen. But that's part of the reason we have a mask requirement, is because there is no indoor distancing requirement at this point. But the masking is what's taking the place of doing that. And that's where when you get outside, you can take the mask off unless you can't distance, right? And then you wear a mask just as you would indoor, where we can't guarantee that there'll be 6 feet between folks. But in terms of a student testing positive, I think the answer is it depends, right, Nikki? It depends on the situation. Faculty members who have been, and I'll turn it over to you and you can verify this, but faculty members who have the booster, would not need to quarantine if they have been in a classroom where a student tests positive, right? And everyone's wearing their mask and going about the protocols. The same for students who have the booster. The problem is we might not know right away who has the booster and who doesn't. Those that don't have the booster may need to quarantine for 5 days. And this is where we're going to make sure that the faculty are working with their academic administrator, their manager, their supervisor to walk through all of that and work with the reporting system so we can make the determination. And in some cases, it'll be a case-by-case basis based on the status of the folks in the space. Nikki, did I get that right?
You did. Our meeting helped the other day.
So it was pointed out that there's still some 6 feet distance markers in the SMN building. And of course, there's
those
everywhere I go, I see them at the bank,
Yeah,
the grocery store, they're still all there, right? So
those no, students don't have to stay on those markers. Those should be taken out at this point. We did put new signage on all exterior doors. So if there's a classroom door that is exterior, it now has a sign that says, you must wear this type of mask, you need to be vaccinated, and we encourage you to get boosted. And if you're sick, go home. And then it directs you to the website for more information. So those are now standard across both campuses. When we put those up, we attempted to take down all the old stuff, much of which now is outdated and was from way back in spring of 2020. And most of those things are things that don't really apply now. We may have missed some. So I guess worst case scenario, you can put in a school dude work order to have things removed. Ultimately, if there are 6-foot markers on the floor, it's not the end of the world at the moment. Better to have it than to not have it and need it. But at this point, no, they do not need to adhere to that.
Just piggyback off Jonathan, if you have not taken advantage to get your booster, I highly recommend it. Also, like the opening of this presentation or this webinar today really emphasized, which is why Nicole Cruz went over the Strong website. I encourage everyone, please read it. It's a lot of, most of the questions that's been asked, it's actually there. And it's available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with basic questions related, if it's to COVID, to protocols, to safety and so forth. Also, your supervisors are your resources as well. If you have just specific questions, and they are, of course, can reach out to any one of us for that. But the booster is really, really important to have right now, just to protect us all. So I encourage you all to, if you need to know where to go get it, I can send that information to you if you have not done so already. And if you have had your booster, yay, please update, go to the submit your vaccination and just update your current booster card so we can have that on file. That helps whenever someone is exposed and we have to contact trace to ensure that we're in contact with the right people. So if you have recently received the booster or a third dosage, please just update your current vaccination card to the tool.
And I will say that will be really helpful to us as we consider whether to make the booster a requirement moving forward or not. We've not gotten to that point. We certainly that information would be very helpful to us. Okay, Jess, any last questions?
Yes, I think there's like the last two. Are there any plans for an employee lounge facility at IVC? Also, are there plans to repair the HVAC in the IVC mailroom?
Greg, take a stab at those.
I heard a break room, and first I'll start with the mailroom. I didn't know it was out to start with, so that's news to me. So we'll take a look at that. And then what were the other parts of that question? I'm sorry.
Employee break room at IVC.
I haven't figured one out yet, but we can figure that out.
We'll take a look at that. Yeah, great. Okay, any last questions, Jesse, before I wrap it up?
What if we can't remember if we updated our booster? Is there somewhere we can check that?
Whether they updated or the date of the booster.
I think if they're not sure if they've actually submitted it, can they check it somewhere? So maybe it's an HR.
No, they would need to, if you don't know if you submitted it, updated, you can freely fill out the form again and it will show up.
Terrific. Okay, so if you joined us late, let me make sure that I leave you with the takeaways, the primary takeaways. The first is we are proceeding as planned. It's coming back with in-person instruction beginning Saturday for Saturday classes and Monday for regular classes that happen throughout the week. So we're doing that. And I want to emphasize the point, get your booster. If you've not gotten your booster, folks, that's really, really, really important. I also want to emphasize the message I said, we've got this. We have got this, folks. We're all in this together. We're going to work through this together. Let's have each other's backs. One of my other primary messages. And finally, I'll just leave you with, it's all about grace and patience. So with that, thank you all for joining us today. We'll see you sooner than later. Take good care, stay healthy. Thanks, everybody.